Hello, buddies. Good evening. So let us start today's session. And today's session would be the continuation from the previous lesson. You remember we had stopped it here in the moral of the story. Okay, so where I discussed how floating point numbers would not be represented exactly when it comes to decimal places. So it depends, and I showed you that with various examples over here that the precision that floating point numbers uses is 16 to 17 digits, and beyond that so it will not represent it. So whatever it has to represent, it will represent using 16 to 17 digits by approximation, by approximating it. Okay, so this is what we learned in our previous session. So now so what happens is, if suppose you're working with floating point numbers and you want to represent that in a proper manner, because like as we discussed earlier, right? So we know that the floating point representation would, the way it represents, the way Python represents floating point numbers is based on what it feels is the right one to represent. Sometimes it says 0.1, sometimes it says 0.6000 to 16 digits. Okay, and then sometimes it says 0 0.6 and all that. So if suppose we want to have control over it, it means we have, if suppose we want to decide if we need say some 5 decimal places after the point, or if we want say only two decimal places after the point, or something like that. If suppose we want to have control over the representation of the floating point numbers, okay, then we can make use of a built-in function called as format. Okay, so that is what I will be discussing over here. So we have a built-in function called as a format, which will actually help us in formatting the decimal numbers. Okay, as you can see on the screen in the material that I've shared with you, that I use this format function inside the print function. Okay, so what I will do is I'll just remove this format function and show you how it works, right? Yeah, now you can see the screen. So what happens in the screen is I am writing a format function over here. I'll tell you how it works. So this is your format function. Okay, and I would give it one number. I would give it some calculation. Say for example, I would say 12 divided by 4. Okay, and this is the number that I'll have to actually represent. 12 divided by 4 will give me a result, and the result should be the result must be formatted in a specific format. That is the way it has to be formatted would be given as a second parameter to this format function. So I would say within a string double quotes, I would say 0.2f. Okay, so we know that 12 divided by 4 will result in a number, okay, 3.0. Let me write it over here. It results in a number 3.0. Okay, 12 divided by 4 is 3, so it gives me 3.0. And if suppose I want the output to be printed as 3.00, okay, this is the result it gives. If suppose I want it to be, I want it to print it as 3.00, then I will actually format it using this string 0.2f. So what does this 0.2f says? This 0.2f says that I need two places, decimal places after the point, is what it says. By default, 12 divided by 4 will give you 3.0. And if you want the output to be 3.00, that is, if you want two zeros, that is two decimal places after the point, you want two places after the decimal point over here. Okay, then you can actually say 0.2f. Right. So after doing this, what happens? This format function, after formatting that result, it will give you a string. It will result in a string, which is nothing but it gives you like this 3.00. This is the result that this format function will give you. So this result, if suppose I want to print it, what is it I'll have to do? I'll have to use the print function to print this. Okay, so instead of writing it in two steps like this, what is that I do? I will actually put this into one particular format. So I would say print, and then within this I will say format. I will use a function format 12 divided by 4 comma 0.2f. Okay, so when I print this, so this will give me 3.00. Did you understand this? You understand this? Okay, so I'll give you one more way to do this. The same thing, I would split this print and format. Just check out. What I will do is I'll just split it. Okay, so first I'll format the number. I'll say format and say 12 divided by 4. Okay, comma 0.2f within a string, right? And after formatting, it will basically give me a string, the formatted string. So I will store it in a variable called as say var. I'll just store it in a variable. Okay, so this variable will now contain a string, which is a formatted string, which is nothing but 3.00. So that I will print it using the print function. Print Okay, where. Okay, so when I do this, I'll get the output as 3.00. So these two steps can be combined into one step by writing, okay, instead of storing it in a separate variable and then asking the print to print that variable, I would put these two into one step, which I've done in my programs. So I'd say print, okay, and within this I would say format 12 divided by 4 comma 0.2f. Okay, so by doing this, what happens? The same thing as these two steps. This is the first step and this is the second step, correct? So here, this is the first step that happens. The result of this step would be a string 3.00, right? And then print would make use of this and print that. So that is the second step, that's all. Okay, so basically format is used to format a particular number or a string or anything else for that matter. For now we will just format the number, the decimal number, that is a number that has a fractional part. We'll just format it. Okay, so let us go to more and more examples and understand format function better. Okay, yeah, so now let me give you some examples I have in my terminal over here. Okay, so we have okay, if you see that, I have commented out all the lines for now. So what I will do is I will remove these comments one by one and I'll start executing it. The first one is just a print. I'm printing 12 divided by 5. Let me see what is the output we will get. I'll compile this. Python 3.4.py. Okay, so you get 2.4. Now, if I want it as 2.44, that is, I need two places after the decimal point, 0.40 or something. So what is that I will do? I'll have to do a format. So that is done in the next line. I'll say format the output of 12 by 5. Okay, and give me the format in two decimal places after the point. Okay, so that is the reason I formatted by saying within a string 0.2f, and this format function would format it, and I'll ask the print to print it. Okay, let me compile the program to see whether it works the way we want it to work. Okay, yes, we got it. This also works, correct? Now in the next example, what does it say? I want 12 divided by, I want to calculate 12 divided by 5. Now I want 3 decimal places after the point. I need 3 places after the decimal point. Okay, so in the first case it was 3 point, what was the result we got? Okay, we just got it as 2.4, right? Here we got 2.4. We formatted it to 2.40. In here now our output should be 2.400 because 3 places after the decimal point. Let me see if it works like that. Yeah, it is working, right? And then we have again print 5 divided by 7, a new one. I think it will give you, let me see what is the output of print 5 divided by 7. How many decimal places are there after the point? Okay, so it says, let me compile this 4.py. Oh, it's a huge number. Okay, it says, when I say huge number, we have 16 digits after the point. Okay, so 7142857 and all that. It's a big number. So what I want to do is that I'm formatting it, that is the format 5 by 7, and I want to cut out the remaining numerals digits, and I only want to have only 2 digits after the decimal point. So let me see if it actually works. Yes, if you see the output, yes, instead of 7.1, there are 16 digits after the point in the previous output. Now I made it as 0.71. You got it? Hope you got what I'm trying to tell you. Yes? Yeah. Okay. Are you hearing? Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah. So similarly, the rest of the format function. Okay. So in the next examples, you have something called as E. E stands for scientific notation. So I am telling the format function to format the result of 11 by 12 and with 3 decimal places, and print it in decimal in the scientific notation format. Okay. So let me see the final output also so that you understand. This is how it is. You can see e raised to 0 minus 0 1 and e raised to minus 0 1 like that. So you can see it is in scientific notation. Okay, so you can take the same programs. I have shared it in the material given to you, so you can start working on it, and you can remove various part of the format function and see how it works. That is the best way to learn any programming language or any concept for that matter. So don't just type this and see, because typing the same thing that is given in the material, same program will result in the same results. So what I want you to do is I want you to remove various part of this particular format function and see how the output differs. Okay, so don't worry about these operators over here, 12 divided by 5, 2 star star 100 and all that. That is a topic that would be covered in tomorrow's session, that is in the next session. So here I'm just explaining you the format function. I'm just teaching you how to format your floating point numbers. Okay, how you actually control the representation of floating point numbers. That is what you have to understand from here. So if you have any doubts about operators, don't worry, I will be teaching you in the next session. Is that okay? Yeah. Now coming to the next topic. Coming to the next topic, it is, yeah. So we have certain guess the output problems over here. Let me now explain this one by one to you guys. It's just it's an exercise to learn a lot of things over here. So here it's a print method which says let's go. Okay, do you think this will work? Will it work? Does it work? Print let's go. Yes, it works. The output of this would be, okay, it is let's go. Yes, it prints exactly because it has a double opening double quotes and an ending double quote. So therefore there is no problem. It's a complete string. It gets printed, right? Now, next one, when it comes to next one, print Subhash is within a single quote and Python a single quote and zebra a single quote and nothing. There is no comma and all that. In that case, what happens? Everything gets concatenated and becomes one string. Okay, so it is like this. So the output would be Subhash. The output would be Subhash. Okay, no space, Python. Okay, and then zebra. There is no space here. Okay, so zebra, right? Now as an assignment, what I want you to do is that, you know, I want you to put a comma in between and see what could happen. That I want you to take it as an assignment. Okay, just put a comma over here and see what would happen. Yeah, probably as you expected, there would be a space between these words, Subhash space Python space zebra. Okay, that would be the output, right? Now if you want to, instead of space, okay, when you put a comma over here, it results in a space. But if you want anything else to be the output, okay, what will you do? Okay, you remember I discussed this in the previous session over here. We discussed this in the previous session. Okay, where is it? Yeah, here. So we have to use a separator. Okay, by default the separator is space. Okay, if suppose you do not put a separator over here, what happens is automatically these two words would be separate. Like here you have print hello comma hello. When you don't have a separate, you do not have a separator. You have not mentioned a separator over here. So in this case, what happens is that it is hello. The output would be hello space hello. The output here would be hello, a space, and a space would be there, and then a hello. Okay, if suppose you want something else instead of space, then you will have to use a you will have to mention that in your variable SCP is equal to dollar or whatever it is. So that will get replaced over here. Is that okay? Yeah, they are basically default arguments, which I'll be explaining it to you in detail later as a separate session. For now, just understand this. So play around with this, put dollar sign, put some other number and all that, then you'll understand what it is. Okay, yeah. Fine, let me come to the next output over here. Yeah, so in the next one you say print let's go. I think this will give you an error. Not think, it will give you a compile time error. It will result in an error. The reason is that, you know, here you can see that you have a single quote and an ending single quote. That is, you have a matching single quotes. It becomes a string. Whereas you have a single quote which does not have a matching starting quote over here. So this will result in an error. So that is how it is. So if you want even this one to work, then you have to basically have a matching single quote for this. So the error here is because there is no matching opening quote for the ending quote. That is the reason, right? So this results in error. The next one also results in error because there must this single quote should have been double quote. Okay, because when you are having a string with double quotes, then it should end with a double quote, or this double quotes, right, should have been a single quote. Either way, either you will have to have a string within a pair of double quotes, or you must have a string within a pair of single quote. You cannot mismatch like this, so even this will result in an error. Okay, right. I want you to type this practically and see what happens. Now we have very important function called as two functions called as ORD, and then you have something called as char. Okay, so what does it work? So before explaining that, let me explain you one more concept. Okay, that is called as encoding system. Encoding. I'm removing this from the screen for now. So what do you mean by an encoding system? What is encoding? Okay, encoding. What do you mean by encoding? You must understand this fact. Okay, that first thing you must know that your computers, will only understand zeros and ones, not anything else. It understands only anything that you actually give it to the computer, right? It understands it in terms of zeros and ones, correct? Now, if suppose I want to represent some number, say 5, okay, then this 5, so computer cannot understand 5. Computer will only understand what? Zeros and ones. So what basically your compiler or interpreter will do is that it will convert this number into its binary equivalent. What is its binary equivalent? Okay, it is 0101, isn't it? Right, this is what is its binary equivalent: 2 to the power 0, 2 to the power 1, 2 to the power 2, and 2 to the power 3. So therefore it is 4 plus 1, and then it becomes 5, right? So anything and everything that your computers understands is only in terms of binaries, that is zeros and ones. And therefore, okay, if suppose we want to represent characters, even this one has to be represented in binary. But do you think a character like A or B or C can be represented in binary? It is not. It is not possible. Okay, it doesn't have any. It is not a number system to represent it like this. This is a decimal number system. We converted that into binary. Whereas this is not. This does not contain any numbers. It is not a number. Therefore, there is no number system for that. So for that, what happens is that, so the International Standards Committee, they basically decided that for every characters that we have, okay, so we can actually, they have given a unique number to identify that character. Okay, say for example, capital A has a unique number called as 65, okay, which is nothing but the ASCII value. Okay, so they have given this ASCII value for A so that this number can be represented in binary format, in zeros and ones. In binary format, this could be represented, right? For that reason, so every character has been given a unique number so that it can finally be represented in binary format, zeros and ones. For that reason, we have something. So this representation of characters into a number equivalent, okay, is basically called as an encoding system. So we have encoding system like Unicode, okay, ASCII, American Standard Code for information interchange and all that, right? So even ASCII is part of Unicode. Unicode is the encoding system which is very large, and it can represent more than 1 lakh characters that is available in the whole world, like Chinese, Indian, Hindi, Kannada, Malayalam, any language for that matter. You take any language for that matter. I think Unicode has the equivalent representation for that number. Okay, so 65 is basically an ASCII value, and the character A the character A is represented using the ASCII value 65, and its by equivalent binary can be represented using the zeros and ones, so that it can be stored in the memory format. This is basically called as encoding system. I'll repeat, encoding is nothing but giving an equivalent number, okay, or encoding a character using a particular number so that it could be represented in a binary format when operating with computers, is basically called as encoding. Okay, now if suppose you want to know what is the ASCII value of each and every character, okay, then we make use of this functions called as odd and char. Okay, so let me open the material. Okay, can you see this? And one more thing I forgot to tell you is that whenever you are representing any character, it has to be represented within a single quote like this. This basically becomes a character. Okay, this is normally the norm in any other programming languages, but because Python does not have something called as character, always this can be called as a string with a single character. Okay, as I discussed in yesterday's class, right? Anything that you enclose within a single quote, okay, like this A, B, C, or anything that you enclose within double quotes A, B, C, or anything that you enclose within triple quotes like this A, B, C, okay, or anything that you enclose within triple double quotes like this becomes your string. Okay, no, so even this is basically a string, but only one single character. Okay, only one character. This is a string with three characters. Okay, right, and this is also a string with three characters, right, like that. Okay, so basically we have this function called as ORD, which stands for ordinance function, which will give you the equivalent ASCII value for this particular character. Okay, so this will result in 65, which is that, let me open this. So this function will give you the equivalent ASCII value of this character A. So this will give you 65. Okay, now do you know what is the ASCII value of 6? Do you know what is ASCII value of 6? Okay, so if you don't know the ASCII value of 6, then you'll have to by heart this. Okay, that is, the ASCII value of A would be 65, ASCII value of small a would be 97, ASCII value of 0 would be 48, ASCII value of these things are enough, right? So if you say A is 65, then B would be 66, okay, C would be 67, so on and so forth. Okay, so if A is 97, small b would be 98, and small c would be 99. Okay, and if 0 is 48, 1 would be 49. okay, and then 2 would be 50, okay, and 3 would be 51, okay, and 4 would be 52, 5 would be 56, okay, and 6 would be 57. So I think we have 6 in our example over here, so this would give you 57 as the ASCII value. Okay, now when you say ordinance of 65, okay, so A is a character, 6 is a character. Do you think 65 is a character? 65 is not a character. Either 6 can be a character or 5 can be a character. Okay, so 65 is not a character, therefore you will get an error. That is not an that is not a character basically. Okay, so this will result in an error. Right now, so I want you to try order 65 by yourself. This is your assignment. Okay, see what happens over here. Okay, okay, I'm not giving you the answer because I want you to try it out. Right, then we have something called a CHR. This will be your assignment. Okay, yeah, so CHR, when I say CHR will give you the character equivalent to its ASCII value. So 65 is an ASCII value and the character equivalent to that ASCII value is 65. So the output would be A for that. Okay, so the output would be A for this. Okay, now the next CHR is 48. This is not an ASCII value, so it will give a result in an error. I want you to try this out. Okay, will be your assignment now. Correct. Next, what happens? We have a function called as format that we just discussed with how to we discussed with floating point numbers to represent floating point numbers and to control its decimal places. We use format. Now we are actually using format to work on strings. So what is this? It has two parts within single quotes. Hello is a string, and then we have something called as less than 20. Okay, so what does it say? It says that print hello on the format hello on the screen. Okay, basically you want to format hello on the screen, and hello has to be formatted, okay, using 20 spaces, and it should be left justified completely. It means 20 spaces would be used to print, to format this hello. It would be used, okay, 20 spaces, 1 2 3 4 5 6, like this 20 spaces would be used. Okay, and when you're using 20 spaces, okay, this hello, should it start from the left or should it start from the right? Okay, so that is the meaning of less than. So less than looks like towards the left, right? So basically what happens is it gets aligned towards the left. It says HELLO, and the remaining would be filled with spaces, just like that. Okay, I'll show you the output in some time. Okay, the next one says format hello, but it is the opposite of that. So therefore this hello, okay, here if you have this with 20 spaces like this, the hello, the string would be formatted from the right. Okay, so it would make use of hello from here, HELLO. So it would start from here, HELLO. So basically it makes use of 20 spaces. So out of 20 spaces, the last 1 2 3 4 5 spaces would be used from the right hand side. In the previous case, it was from the left hand side. Okay, now what do you mean by this symbol? That is your XOR symbol. Okay, so it is basically to ask, it is basically telling the format function to format the hello so that it appears in the middle, not on the left, not on the right, but in the middle. The remaining spaces and all would become empty. Okay, yeah, so the next one says arrange hello in between. Okay, not on the left, not on the right, but you'll have to arrange that hello, or format that hello to be represented in the middle of 20 spaces. And provided, what if suppose you have an empty space, instead of empty space, replace it with a dot symbol. Okay, so let me just show this to you practically so that you understand. Okay, I'm taking this from here. Okay, format, right, and I would run this in an interpreter mode like this. So what do you say? Make use of 20 spaces, and when you're making use of 20 spaces, just left align it completely from the, okay, you can see. So 20 spaces are here, 20 spaces are allocated, and it is left aligned completely. Okay, so if I change the sign to greater than symbol, then it becomes like this. So same thing, if I actually change it to this XOR symbol, it would be arranged towards the middle. And if I actually put a dot over here, the remaining spaces would be filled with a dot. If I change this to hyphen, this will be filled with hyphen. Okay, so this is how your format function works with strings. Okay, got it? Yeah, so after saying that, so the same thing happens even with 65, and I would leave it as an assignment for you to try this one. Okay, I'll leave this as an assignment to try. I want you to try this out. Then we have something called as print, okay, format hyphen 20 hyphen and all that. So let us break this out one by one. Okay, so we have this format initially. This format function is there. So format function says I want to print a string hyphen in 20 spaces, and it has to be left justified, and the remaining spaces should be filled with hyphen. Okay, so it says like this: I want a 20 spaces like this, print hyphen towards the left. Okay, and whatever pending spaces are there, all these, the blank space are there, it must be filled with a hyphen. Okay, this format says even I want to print hyphen. Okay, you using 20 spaces, and it should be left aligned towards the right. Okay, and then the remaining blank spaces should be filled with the hyphen. Okay, it is given here, right? And then this hello world would get printed in between this and this, so that this would hello world would be printed using this print. So basically this would be printed, that is hyphen would be 20 hyphens would be printed, hello world would be printed again, and then again 20 hyphens would be printed. Okay, this is how it works. So let me copy this and show it to you. I need you to just practice this so that you understand it better, like this. Okay, let me now format it properly. So what happens is when we actually copy certain things from our Word document to the terminal, the character changes and you may not get the right output. So be careful. Okay, so I am making sure everything is in the right proper format, the characters especially. Okay, and this would be your output when I press an enter. Hello world. Okay, so this is the output of the first format. Okay, this is the output of the second format, and then we have hello world in between. Okay, so all these will get printed by the print function. That's how it is. Hope you understood. Yeah. Okay. All right. So now we'll move to the very important concept. Next important concept called as variables. Okay. So what do you mean by variables? Any idea? Variables. Variables. Okay. So variable is nothing but you take any programming language for that matter. So you take any programming for that matter. Okay. So let me take C for example now. Just C. If you don't know C, it's okay, forget about it. But for now, if people who are there who know C language, you can relate it. People who don't know C language, it's okay, just ignore it. Okay, for now, because this will not help you in any way. But people who know C language may get confused when I talk about variables in Python. That is the reason I'm actually explaining this to you, right? In C, if suppose you want to create a variable, you basically say int a is equal to 6 or something like this. Okay, so what does it mean? It says you're telling the C compiler that, boss, give me a specific amount of memory location on the RAM. Okay, and it may have some address 100, and give it a name as A. Okay, and store the value of 6, and this data int will tell you that this variable should be of 4 bytes. The size of this variable, right, should be of 4 bytes, correct? So that is what that is what this line says in C language. So basically what is A? A is nothing but a name given to a specific memory location on the RAM, which holds a constant 6, okay, of a specific size. Now this is how you create a variable in C language. Whereas when it comes, or in any, even for Java also you do the same thing. Okay, or in C++ also you do the same thing. Okay, but whereas in Python, right, you don't do all these things. Rather you just say A is equal to 6. That's all. Okay, so what is that you can see? What is the difference that you can see in Python? In Python, that the difference that you can see when compared to C, Java or C++ is that first thing is you do not need to write your data type. Correct, no? So because you need not say how much of memory has to be allocated, because Python knows how much of memory has to be allocated for that. You need not bother about it. The memory allocation and all is automatically taken care by the Python, which is really a great part. Okay, and then as usual, so A is basically a name which is referenced to a memory location in the memory, okay, which is actually containing a value of 6. Say for example, somewhere in the memory there is a value 6 and a tag. Okay, basically the way variables are designed in Python is very different. Okay, so you can consider it as a a tag given to a constant that is stored in memory like this. Okay, so what happens when I say A is equal to 6, somewhere in the memory on the heap, okay, so the 6 would be stored, and there is a tag like A given to it, attached to it, to indicate that yes boss, I'm referring to this particular constant. Okay, this is basically your Python has designed variables, right? Variables are considered as a tag given to a constant. If you find it difficult to imagine like this, then for now, for time being, what we'll do is we'll consider this as to be a 6 to be in a memory location, and a is just a name given to this particular memory location. Let us just consider it like that, okay, for now, for time being, so that you understand variables better. So again, what is a variable in Python? Variable is that nothing but a name given to a particular memory location that is containing a constant. Same thing like how you did it in C language. Only thing is you do not have control in allocating memory for it, or you need not say how much of memory has to be allocated for it and all that. Everything has been dynamically taken care by Python. Okay, now having said that, okay, in this case, when I come to C, okay, let me write it like this. Let me in C language, basically, if I say for example, if I say int a is equal to 6, there would be a memory allocation like this, a and 6 and 100. Okay, and then later if I say int, and I'll create one more variable, int k is equal to a, then you know what happens? A new variable, new memory location gets allocated, and a gets stored into k. That is the value of a gets stored into k. That is, a new memory location gets allocated, and a name is given a, and this is a separate new memory location, right? And the value of a, what is there in a? It is 6. That gets stored into this k. So basically, it comes here, and then even data type has been given as usual. So that is the reason two different memory locations are given. So these two statements will result in two different memory locations, isn't it? Right? But in Python it differs. Instead of when I say a is equal to 6 and then say k is equal to a, something like this, in that case, right, in C it gave you two different memory locations, whereas here, okay, in Python it differs, that it says I will not create a new memory location, rather I will just point to the same memory location. That is, k will still be pointing to the same memory location that a was pointing to. Okay, this is because it says, Python says, I want to save memory, because both are containing the same values. When both the variables are if you're trying to have two different variables with the same value, then why should I basically create two different memory locations to store the same value? I'll not be able to save it, or I won't save it, and therefore two variables will be referring to the same memory location. Okay, so this is basically implemented like this in Python to save memory. Now, you might ask me a question, if both are saving memory, then there is a problem. The problem is that, okay, if someone changes the value of a to say 7, if someone changes the value of a to 7, then what happens is that even k value would be changed, isn't it? Yes or no? Don't you think that if suppose someone comes and changes the value of a to 7, then don't you think even 7 would be, k would change its value? That is what normally we all think initially when we start learning variables, in Python, but this is not the case. So what happens here is that, okay, initially when I say a is equal to 6, a new variable is associated with a value 6 like this, and then I say k is equal to a, even k would start referring to this memory location which contains 6. But next time when I say a is equal to 7, what happens is that, okay, this 6 would be taken into some other memory location. There it would be implemented to, there it would be incremented to 7, or it would be changed to 7. Okay, and then a is now pointing to a new memory location, and this would be removed from here. No more a is pointing to the old 6, it is now pointing to a new variable, new constant 7. Therefore, now as you can see that k would not be changing, okay, only a would be changing. Okay, in earlier case when I said just a is equal to 6, there was only one variable and one object, that is 6, correct? When I say k is equal to a, there was only one object. Okay, there was only one object, as I said here, right? It is a is equal to 6 and k is equal to a, both started referring to the same object, correct? This was one scenario. Now when I made a is equal to 7, okay, now there are two objects referenced by two different variables, k and a. So that is, in that case, that is the reason, if you make changes to a, it will not change the value of other variables referenced. Did you get what I'm trying to tell you right now? Now, one more thing which I want to make it clear here is that, okay, these literals, right, these constants over here, integer constants, are immutable in Python. What do you mean by immutable? Immutable means that it cannot be changed. The value will not be changed, right? So what I mean by value will not be changed, it is like this, right? If I say a is equal to 7, and then I'll say a is equal to a plus 1, something like this, right? So in generally what happens in other programming languages like C is that, you know, when I say a is equal to 1 and then say a is equal to a plus 1, okay, the same memory location, that is if a was containing 1 and if I say a is equal to a plus 1, this memory location itself was getting changed to 2. This was getting updated to 2, whereas in Python it doesn't happen that in that way. Okay, you cannot change the values of that memory location, so they are immutable. Immutable means the one that cannot be changed. Then what happens in this case? Will it not get incremented to 8? It will get incremented to 8, but the way it works is like this. First, initially a would be referring to a constant 7 on a memory location, and in the next line when I say a is equal to a plus 1, what happens is that instead of changing this one, that is this 7, the old 7, it would actually copy the 7 into a new memory location that would be incremented to, you know, by plus 1, and it becomes 8, and a will now start referring to the different memory location, right? When this starts referring to the new memory location, don't you think that this will become an orphan kind of thing? This will become empty. No, so nobody is there referring to it in memory, right? Therefore this will become eligible for garbage collection. There is a program in your Python virtual machine, it is called as garbage collector. So what it will do is it will periodically be checking the memory, okay, to see if there is any object that is without having any reference. Is there any object that does not have any reference? Such kinds of objects would be automatically removed from the memory by the garbage collector, and the concept is called as garbage collection. Garbage collection, it's called as garbage collection, right? And now currently is pointing to referring to the constant 8. Okay, so that is what I meant by the numeral, that is your integer constants are immutable. Did you get that? Yeah, did you get that? Just can you tell me just got it? Yeah, shall we move to the next concept? Right, yeah. Okay, now having said that, how do you know that I said that when I say a is equal to 6, okay, and then I said k is equal to a, and I told you that both a and k are referring to the same memory location. Both a is referring to this and k is referring to, I told you this, right? If both are referring to the same, what is the guarantee that both are referring to the same? And I also told you that if I change the value of a to a plus 1, if I say a is a plus 1, I told you that a will no more be referring to the old memory location, rather it will copy 6 into some other memory location, and that would be changed to 7, and a would be now pointing to the new memory location, and it will stop pointing to the old memory location. I told you, right? Because constants are immutable, it will not change its value. I didn't tell you that, right? So how do you prove that? Okay, how do you prove that? You prove that using a function called as id function. There is a function called as id function. Okay, so what does this function give? If you give an object to it, it will give you a number, a constant, or a value that is representing each object individually, or it actually represents that objects. It gives you a unique representation for those objects. So when I say here, let me now take one more example, the same example again for your example, okay, for your understanding, right? If I say a is equal to 6, okay, and then I say id, so how does it look like in memory? You'll have a constant 6, a is reference to it, correct? I didn't tell you a will be referring to it, right? So a is referring to it. Now if I say id of a, it must give me one number. Okay, I'm just giving an example, 3, 5, 6, 7 or something like that, identifying this memory location. It will give this number id of a. Okay, now next time when I say, okay, the same thing, if suppose I say k is equal to a, and what did I tell you when I say k is equal to a? Even that would be referring to the same memory location. In that case, when I call this function id on this object k, okay, even that should give us the same number, because both are referring to the same constant, right, in the memory location. So both should give the same number. I'll show you this. Let me show this practically to you guys so that you understand. Okay, did you understand this? Now both are referring to the same constants on the memory location, and both should be giving me the same id value for both a and k, correct? Let me show that practically to you. I'll read a simple test program. Okay, I think it's already given here. Okay, so I'll erase this so that I'll write it from first so you understand better. Okay, so I have initially a is equal to 6. A is equal to 6. Now I'll print its id of a. Okay, so let me see what is the output I get. Okay, it gave me some number. Note down this number. It is 45286715552, some random number. Now, according to my explanation, if I actually store, I create another variable k and store a, then as I told you in the explanation, both a and k would be referring to the same constant. Therefore, id of k should also be matched with a only. Both should be same, right? Yes or no? Right? In that case, let me try this and see. Python 3 test.py. Yeah, so both give the same value. So it means both a and k are both pointing to the same location, right? Now, then I told you that if I change the value of a to something else, a is equal to a plus 1, then didn't I tell you here? Here, okay, that if I change the value of a is equal to a plus 1, right, what should happen? So it should point to the next some other memory location, and it should no more point to the old location, rather only k will be pointing to the old location now, correct? So let us see this. So in that case, next if I print the id of a, it must change, correct? No, id of a would now change, okay, because it started pointing to some other constant, whereas k will remain the same. Let me see if it works that way. Okay, it must work. Just prove that over here. Then I say print id of a, okay, and then because k is not changed, k's value should be the same actually. Okay, sorry, it is k, correct? Yeah, k. Now let me try this. Did you see that? First, what has happened here? Yeah. Okay. Did you see? First, it was a is equal to 6 and k is equal to a. Both are same. Then I changed a value. Okay. So a started pointing to some other memory location, whereas k remained there itself. Okay. Now, if I change k value, even now that will start pointing to some other location. I'll show that to you here. Okay. So k is equal to k plus 1. Okay, and I say print id of k. Now you see even that would be changing to something else. Did you see that? Initially both a and k were pointing to the same memory location. Then I changed a value, so a value started pointing to some other memory location, but k was remaining the same. Then I changed the k value, even that started pointing to the some other memory location. Okay, did you see that? Did you get that? Right? So in this case, what has happened over here? So even I changed k value also to k is equal to k plus 1. So k will now start pointing to some other memory location. So when k is also pointing to some other memory location, say what was it, 7. So basically what will happen is that this whichever was pending here, no, that nobody pending in the sense nobody, everyone, I mean there is no reference to it, everyone stopped referring to it. Okay, so then this object became eligible for garbage collection. Garbage collector would remove it from memory, basically from the heap. Did you get that? Okay, you understand this concept, right? Yeah, give me a moment. Okay, right. So we'll move to the next concept now, which is okay. I just forgot to tell you one more thing. One more thing is that the if suppose let me again take the example of C language. When I say int a is equal to 6 here in C, okay, or in Java or whatever it is, right? If this is a variable of type integer and it can only hold an integer value. Okay, so in this case, if I in C language, if I say a, after saying a is of type integer, and then I say a is equal to Subhash, will it work? It will not work. You will basically get a compile time error, because the compiler says, boss, you have declared the variable a as an integer, but now you can see that you are trying to store a string into it. I will not allow it, and you will get a compiler error. Correct? This is not possible in C language. Whereas in Python, if you say a is equal to 6, okay, and then later you say a is equal to Subhash, this will work without any error, because the data type of a is decided by the Python virtual machine. During the runtime, it will decide, okay, whether to make it integer or Subhash and all that. That is the reason in stress class I told in Python, okay, Python is basically, in Python the data types are dynamically typed. The objects are dynamically typed. Dynamically typed means that, okay, it will decide the data type of the object or the variable based on what constant you are storing. First time I'm storing an integer constant, okay, therefore the type of a would be an integer. And in the second time, when I'm after this, I'm actually storing a string constant. And then if you actually check the second, it is a string constant. Okay, therefore if you try to see the type of a here, next time it will actually be a string data type. Okay, so this is the beauty of Python. It automatically takes care of the data type. You need not actually worry about it. Okay, now if you want to see the type, I'll show you a program for it. I have a program. Let me write the same program, test.py. Okay, so let me remove this completely and I'll show you a program. Okay, so now say for example I have a is equal to say 5, which is an integer, and if I want to find the type, we have a function called as type function. Type, see that, no, it is type function, and when I print the type, okay, now it must give me an integer. Let me try that. Python 3 test.py. Did you see this? The type is int. Don't worry about this class, because in Python each and everything is considered as an object, and if there is an object there must be a class. So it says it is of type class int. Okay, so we'll discuss about classes and objects when I come to the topic called as object oriented programming. For now, just understand that the variable that we try to see now is of type integer. Okay, so now I told you that because variables are objects in Python are dynamically typed. It means if I change this value to Subhash, it should not give me any error. Rather, if I try to print the type of A again, it must say it is of type str, that is string. Let me see if it works. Okay, yeah, I'm running it again. First time it should be int, and second time it should be string. Did you see this? First time it was int, and second time it gave me it is str. Okay, now let me actually now store a floating point into it and see whether the time will automatically change. Okay, 15.5. Okay, and then say print type A, right? Now what happens? Python 3 test.py. See here, now it became float. Initially it was int, then it is string, and then it is float. Did you see that? So this proves that what is that? This proves that the objects in Python are dynamically typed and not statically typed, right? That's the beauty of Python. Okay, hope you understood about variables. So final thing about variables which I would like to tell you is that there are rules while you are naming the variables, right? So what are the rules when you are naming the variables? I'll tell you. I think I've given the rules over here. Let me read it out. Rules for variable names in Python. Okay, so it is, first one is a variable name must start with a letter or the underscore character. Okay, keep this in mind. It should not start with a number. Second one is any variable name must not start with a number. A variable name can only contain alphanumeric characters, that is from capital A to capital Z, small a to small z, and 0 to 9, and it can have an underscore in between. No other symbols or characters other than these. Okay, and one more very important thing that you got to keep in mind is that if you write variable names as age, and age, okay, all these are three different variables. Just because the meaning is the same doesn't mean the variables are same. For the Python, small age and capital A and small g and all capitals, all three are considered as three different variables in Python. Okay, yeah, so these are the rules. Now let me see if you can identify which is the right variable name and the wrong variable name. Okay, so I have just a comment over here. You said something wrong, sir. What is it? Okay, that is an output. Okay, fine, got it. Okay, that's an output. That's the answer for the previous question. Okay, right. Now let me now show you. Okay, right. So if you come to this, just try this all in your system. Okay, after the class, please try it out and work on it. Only then you'll be able to learn. I'll do this, guess the output in some time. I think I've done this. So let me finish off this. So ID of n would be id of n will give you the a unique value representing this object, and k of n, all these things are practically shown, right? Okay, on this print 1 2 3 will give you 1 2 3 as the output. Okay, so this will give you a unique number, say 1 5 6 7 or something like that. Okay, and k is equal to n, so even this will be the same, 1 5 6 7. Okay, because n is equal to 10 and k is equal to n, both will be referring to the same memory location. Okay, so when I say here, here there won't be space. In this case there won't be space because it is not separated by commas. In this case there would be a space, 1 2 3, it is separated by space. So you can try this out, right? And then in this case I'm saying n is equal to n plus 1. As I told you, it will now start pointing to the next location, therefore you will get some random memory location like 3 5 4 8 or something, but this will still be pointing to the old location 1 5 6 7. I just explained you the previous concept, no, like that. So the output for this would be hello, okay, without space hello, okay, and then without space hello, right? Yeah, and what about this? There, because there's a comma, it would be separated with a space, right? Hello space, hello space, and hello. Okay, yeah. So next, guess the output is that what, 1 2 3. This will give you an error 1 2 3 because the strings are not properly terminated. You have a double quote opening, closing, and there is, you can see that there is something in between. So there is, it's not proper, it's not properly closed. Therefore, this will result in an error. you will get an error. Okay, and then here you cannot split a single line into two lines. Okay, so this will also give you an error. And if suppose you want to span a single line across multiple lines, then you will have to separate it with a control character backslash. When you say backslash, you are indicating Python compiler that it is the same line which I'm writing it into a next line. So please don't give me any error. So this will say hello world. It will give you hello world. It will give you hello world. Okay. Yeah. So next is what? Identify the wrong variable names or identifiers. So I love India. It is correct. It is starting from a letter, starting with a letter. Whereas this is wrong because it is starting from a number. It is not allowed. This is wrong. And this one has an hyphen. It must not have an hyphen. It can have an underscore, but hyphen is not allowed. Therefore, this is wrong. Okay. Love India. It has a space. Therefore, it is wrong. Okay. And then have underscore love India. Yes, it is possible. So the variable names in Python can either start with a letter or an underscore. Okay. So this is possible, valid. Then and now this and cannot be used because and is basically considered as a keyword in Python. Okay, now what do you mean by keywords? Keywords are certain set of words for which already some meanings have been given by our Python language, correct? And those keywords cannot be used, what is that? Cannot be used as your variable name, right? So when you say and is equal to 10, okay, so let me give you an example for that. Okay, when I run this in interactive mode, okay, so what happens is when I say and is equal to 10, okay, it will give you an error. So because it gives an error because it says Python thinks and is a logical and operator. Basically and is considered as a logical and operator in Python, and you are trying to use it in a very different way. So Python has been already told that and is a and is a logical and operator and has to behave differently, but you are trying to make use of it as a variable, so the Python doesn't allow it. So therefore it gives you an error. Okay, no. What about print? Print is equal to 10. Will it work? It must work. Print is not a keyword. Print is only a name given to a function. That's all. It is basically called as an identifier. So like how you give names to variable, similarly names are given to functions, names are given to object, names are given to classes, like that, right? So similarly, print is equal to 10 may not give an will not give an error because print is not a keyword. Okay, but after saying print is a variable and then you actually try to use print for printing something, right, then it will give you an error. The reason is because Python says boss, see, print has been used as an object, an integer object. Okay, and now you're trying to make it behave like a function. I will not allow it to do. Okay, so that is why print this will give you an error, right? So in our case, in this case, right, and is a keyword, so you will not be able to use it for making it as a variable. Print, yes, you will be able to do it, but once you make print as your what is that print as your variable name, you will not be able to do it some other you cannot be able to call it as a function or anything like that. Okay, yeah. So next, break. Break is not a keyword. Do you see any break over here? Break is there, but it is small b, but here we have a capital B, so it won't be considered as a keyword, and this one works. Okay, even this one works, right? Now there are many identifiers which are not part of these keywords. They are not part of these keywords but have already been used for specific functionality. Say for example, print. Print is used for what? Print is not a keyword, but its name has been already used by Python to as a function name, right? So it must not be, it basically must not be used as a variable name, isn't it? Right? Because print already we have used so many times print here, print as function over here, function name over here, right? So print's meaning has already been given to it. Though compiler won't give you an error, don't you think it is bad to actually use print as a variable name? So if you want to know what are those variable names that are that cannot be used or that must not be used and whose meaning has already been given, then you can type this command on your command prompt. That is your Python command prompt in your interactive mode, and it will tell you, right? Say for example, when I say exit, we'll see whether exit has been used. Okay, so when it's 1 second, I'll change out the single quote. When you copy, as I said, when you copy from the Word document to the terminal, right, the meaning of these characters changes. Okay, yeah. So if you see exit is an identifier. It's not a keyword, but it is an identifier which is basically built into the standard. It has been used in Python for various other purposes. It's been used as a function name or object name or something else. Okay, so basically we are not supposed to use it, but if you use it, it doesn't give any error, but it says don't use it. Okay, so if you see dir built-ins, okay, you can see the set of things that is already been used, though you can use these as your variable names. So Python says don't use it because we have already used it for some other purpose, so you don't use it. Okay, so you can see lot of variables over here. You can see exit over here. Exit is used. Okay, exit is already used for some other purpose, so it is just telling us that these are the identifiers that we have used for various other purpose, though these are not part of the keyword list. Okay, and if you use it as a variable name, we don't give you any error, but the original meaning for which Python has already uses identifier will be lost. Okay, like how you used print. Is print over here? Yeah, print is there. Print is already used for a function name, right? But if you make use of print as a variable name, its print nature of the function nature of the print would be lost, is what this dir built-ins will tell you. It's a module. It will tell you, it will give you the all the identifiers that have been used for Python's internal purpose, which are not part of the keywords. Okay, yeah, did you get that? Yeah, having said that, you can try this too. Now Subhash is not part of it, so this must give us false. When you try this, it must give you false. So exit in dir built-ins, exit was there in dir built-ins, therefore it will give you true. Okay, Subhash is not in dir built-ins. It is not predefined identifier by Python, so this will give you false. Boolean constant. We discussed yesterday. No, true and false are Boolean constants. Okay. Now coming to this, guess the output. Say yield is equal to 1,000. So yield is basically I'm trying to make use of it as an variable name, but way yield is basically a keyword. Did you see this? So yield, this will give an error because yield must not be used as a variable name and used for comparison and all that. Therefore, this will actually give you an error. This will give you an error, whereas this will not give you an error because it is small y where it is capital Y, so this is not considered as an keyword. So this will work and it will compare two things. So comparison I'll tell you tomorrow, right? So here if you see print is equal to 10, this will work, but when you try to make use of that as a function, this will not work. Okay, yeah, I think we have completed today's session. So but one, there is an assignment over here. So the assignment is I want you to write a program. Okay, the program is, this program will calculate a restaurant bill for a couple with a gift coupon with a restaurant tax of 18%. Okay, so you must give the program. I'm just copied and paste the output over here. So you must write a program so that your program's output would be this. It means assume that you are there is a newly married couple who has got a gift coupon worth 2,000, 3,000 or whatever it is. Okay, and then they go to a hotel and they order restaurant. They go to an they order few items. They they eat those chicken biryani or vegetable biryani or coke or whatever it is, and then they'll have to actually pay the bill. So the bill would be calculated based on what they have ordered as well as the tax of 18%. And then the output, the program output should be, should tell us what was the total bill, what was the total bill with the tax, and what is the remaining amount in the gift coupon. If suppose the gift coupon amount is 2,000 rupees and you have ordered worth 1,000 rupees, then the output, then in the final output, it should say that the amount balance in the coupon is 1,000 rupees. If you have ordered for 1,000 rupees, okay, in this case, the gift coupon is 2,000 and the total bill without tax is 480, total tax is 86, and adding together it becomes 566. And then if you minus that from 2,000, you get 1,433.60. Okay, so let me run that code for you so that you understand. And I want you to, that is an assignment. I want you to write a program for it. Okay, so VI, where is the program? Yeah, VI restaurant bill calculation.py. Okay, yes, sorry. This is the code. Okay, I'm running this code. So it says this program will calculate a restaurant tab for a couple with a gift coupon with a restaurant tax of 18.0%. So it says enter the amount of gift coupon. Now through the keyboard I enter say 2,000, and then it says enter ordered items for person 1. Chicken biryani, I'll say 150. Okay, chicken biryani is 150. Chicken gyros would be say 190, and then Coke drink would be 35. Vanilla ice cream cost is 65 rupees. Now they enter the ordered items for person 2. Okay, so it is say 130 or something. Okay, gobi manchurian is another item. I'll make it as 65. Okay, and then Coke drink again 35, and vanilla ice cream 65. So if you can see, the total bill was 735 rupees, total tax is 132.30, and the total payable is 867, and the remaining amount of balance in the coupon is 1132.70. Okay, did you get that? So this is the program that you have to do. That is an assignment. Okay, so I'm just showing you the code for you guys over here. Okay, but I want you to try it by yourself. Okay, so that you'll understand it better. Don't see the code while you're executing this program, try to write the code by yourself. And if you could not get it, then you can come back and you can see the code that I've actually shown you over here. Is that okay? Did you get that? Then you can see how it has been, how the code has been written. So until you do it, don't see the code. Okay. I think we are done with today's session. It's over. So tomorrow we would be starting, in the next lesson, we would be starting operators. So hope you enjoyed the session. We learned quite a lot, how to format the function, what are constants, different types of constants, what are different kinds of data types, and how to represent floating point numbers, or ORD function, CHR function, print function, conversion functions like int, float, and all that. Okay, so I kindly request you to practice all the guess the output problems completely by yourself on the computer, and if you have any doubts, please do come back to me and ask me doubts. Is that okay? Right, fine. So you can message your doubts in Coders Factory Facebook group, or you can WhatsApp us, so that we'll try to help you out. Is that okay? Yeah, fine then. Thanks guys, thanks for being with me. Meet you in the next video. Take care. Bye bye.